Hey, so are any of you guys getting ready to shoot your very first feature film, whether it's a documentary or narrative, and you're already starting to overthink the process or like even getting the bubble guts just thinking about the amount of responsibility that's going to be on you as a DP? Well, you're not alone. Man, I remember my first feature documentary project that I had to shoot, and it sent my anxieties through the roof. I was always thinking about like what can go wrong. I would go back in my mind to like previous projects that I worked on in my past where I just fumbled, and it was a bad thing. Rather, it was a huge blunder or even a small one. I personally held it to like the standard of it being like the worst thing that could possibly happen on a production project. So today I want to talk to you guys about 5 very important lessons I've learned shooting my very first feature documentary project. Now the film is called For the Animals. I've briefly talked about it in other videos that I posted here on the channel. This documentary project sheds light on the pressing issue of stray dogs here in Houston, Texas. Now this project is a major milestone for me because not only was it my first feature documentary project, we was able to make the Oscar nomination long list for 2023, and that's huge. More about that later. Now, the first lesson I learned is the power of empathy. As a filmmaker, it's not enough to just capture cool cinematic scenes and images. It's essential to empathize with your subjects to narrate their story more accurately. In this project, the passion and the dedication for the twin activists was overwhelming. What they reminded me was that the care of a single individual can make a significant difference. Now, I'm not gonna lie, just watching them change my perspective about animals, specifically dogs. And even on their journey, they were able to meet people that were also going through some very difficult times. And it just helped them to realize it's not just an animal thing, it's a people thing, and it's a humanity thing. And once you understand that and you get that in your heart, it reflects in the footage that you capture and your demeanor on set and your attitude about even some of the conditions that you have to go through. Now, the second lesson I've learned is the importance of highlighting grassroots efforts. This documentary project taught me that films can serve as a very powerful platform to raise awareness and inspire actions. Now, the 2 activists I was filming, they already have a nonprofit agency that deals with this type of problem. Having those efforts put into a film help amplify the voices of the people that are putting in the difficult work to invoke change. Okay, so we're almost through it. We're halfway there. The third lesson I learned was being prepared for the harsh realities. Filming this project took me into some very sketchy locations. And it was difficult to kind of see not only the situations and the environment that these dogs were actually loose out in the street dealing with, but also some of the people. Houston has a very large homeless population, and some of these animals were actually owned by some of the homeless. And it's like, man, like we first went in there thinking about, oh, like what do we do to get the dogs off the street? But then you look at some of the conditions of some of the people that were living out there, just out in the open, and it did something to me. And though I knew I couldn't go in there and change the lives of everybody, it made me really focus harder as a DP and harder as someone that was in charge of capturing these images with the hopes that it can evoke change in the people that actually see this. And it was also difficult for me to see some of the issues that were going on in the shelters, like seeing some of these dogs cramped up into a cage with no one, like no one there to pet, to hold, to play around with, and I mean cramped conditions. And even hearing some of the stories of animals just being euthanized and not given a fighting chance to be adopted or any of that stuff, it's extremely difficult to deal with. All right, so the 4th lesson I've learned was understanding the broader context. Now, I know For the Animals was based here in Houston, Texas, but it reflects a more global problem that's going on, not just here in Houston, but in other cities. I think sometimes when we do these types of projects, we think that, like it's just for here. Like, hey, I live in Houston, it's just for Houston. So, even though Houston is huge, it kind of gives you like this, it's not big time, but don't think like that. Like, this project is not just about Houston. It's about a global epidemic that's going on in many other cities. So yeah, thinking about the project a lot larger than what it possibly seems like can give you a better sense of like responsibility and empowerment, that you're doing something for the greater good and not just like a small pocket of the world. Okay, so the fifth lesson I learned is patience is key to doing documentary work, especially long-term documentary work. This project took a year to shoot, so a lot happened. There was times where things weren't scheduled and I had to go out and clear my day to shoot content. There was times where there were interviews that were scheduled that it just never happened. There may be times where things are just perfect, or you have a scheduled day where you have to shoot outside but it's pouring rain, so you got to reschedule. We're all human, like, so things are not always going to go according to plan, but being able to have patience and really show that you're a leader, it doesn't just help your workflow and your mental state, but it helps people around you. Yeah, because everyone is not going to exercise patience, and you being a person that can exercise that patience and show people, hey, it's okay, calm down, let's regroup. We can still get this. You know, some of us are really gung-ho and we just want things to work a certain way and it has to be this way and that way. And if it's not, then off with your head. Like, you can't be like that with every project. Oh, and one other lesson. This is actually wasn't part of my bullet points, but I wanted to talk to you about the importance of understanding your gear. One of the biggest lessons I learned on this doc project was how important it was for me to not be an expert in the camera that I was using, but close to one. I understood the camera's weaknesses and strengths, and it was the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, by the way, and we had a Metabone speed booster and a Canon 24-105 lens with a Freewell variable ND. Now, there was no RI cut filters on it, and it wasn't a cinema lens, and again, it was a Pocket 4K. So in today's standard, people may look at that camera like, oh, it's just obsolete. It's not obsolete. Like, we was able to make the Oscar long list with that camera and that camera alone. In addition, I think we had the Pocket 6K, not the Pro, the OG Pocket 6K as a interview camera, but the 4K was a camera that we used. And because I understood the camera, I was able to navigate, move quickly, especially when we had like technical issues. I was able to troubleshoot those issues really fast, and I want people to understand and know it's just not about the gear. It's about the person that's using the gear. Having a camera that you understand and know, it goes a long way, and which is why you shouldn't just buy cameras and sell them in less than 6 months because of the newest camera system that comes out there. Now, I digress. I know that's a touchy topic, and I don't want to. Maybe I'll make another video about that. But just understanding your gear, man, like that's what the client is actually paying for. They want someone to not be able to just shoot and be the cinematographer, but that understands their gear. Gear doesn't always work. There's always something that goes wrong. And for you to be that person that knows how to be like, all right, here's plan B, here's plan C, here's plan D. You know exactly what to do in case of emergencies with this gear. Trust me, it will save countless hours, countless days. Like, I wanted to shoot this project with another camera, but that was the camera that the directors chose. And I'm, looking back at it, and I'm kind of glad that I did run with this camera system, because the camera that I had at the time, I just got the camera. And though I love the image, I didn't know what all the buttons were. I didn't know certain things because I didn't put the camera through its paces yet. The Blackmagic Pocket 4K, I put that camera through the paces. I've already owned the camera for 2 or 3 years. So yeah, just being someone that is extremely knowledgeable of the gear, it goes a long way. So I hope these lessons that I've learned on this project has been extremely helpful to you. If it hasn't, I'm sorry. And hopefully the next video I drop will be helpful. But if you like this video and you like this type of content, please hit the like button. Let the algorithm know that you like me, and my face will probably pop up again in your timeline. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And as always, remember that you are worth it. Take care. Peace.